Hi, everybody. It's Gerard from GH Immigration Services here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I want to talk to everybody about educating here in Canada. Well, I think that there is a very, very big misconception. A lot of people don't realize that before you plan on coming to Canada, you should have a plan. Your whole family should have a plan, actually. This is something that your parents and you should sit down and discuss in great detail and come up with a plan, not just short term, not just coming to Canada to go to school, but what you expect after you finish school. Things to consider when you finish your education. Now, if you want to come for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, whatever type of program that you're looking at coming to Canada for. Now, some of the things you consider is one is cost. Currently, you're looking at about $30,000 a year Canadian to go to school in Canada. 25 to 30,000 is somewhere there for international students. That includes your fees to come to Canada, plus your housing and so on and so forth. So you're looking at around $30,000 a year, and you will require that. Plus, you're also considering, you have to consider the flight here and back and so on and so forth when it comes to that, these extra costs. Yes, you can work while you're in school. You are entitled to work up to 20 hours a week and full-time during session breaks and things like that. But you must consider that this is $30,000. But I think that one thing that people forget, the shortfall, is what happens when you finish school? Now, after you finish, like if you take a 1 year program, you are entitled to a 1 year postgrad work permit. Then you can apply for. If you do a 1 year, 6 month or longer, you can apply for up to a 3 year postgrad work permit. Now, let's start with the 1 year 1 year program. Now, if you take a 1 year program, you're entitled to a 1 year postgrad work permit, like I said. Now, a year goes by very, very quickly. Now, if and where you decide to take your education can really have an effect on your immigration process if you're planning on staying here permanently. So, I always advise people to start considering looking at provinces to educate in that have the most friendly immigration process, let's say it that way, the most friendly immigration process when it comes to postgrad work permits and that. And to my favorite likings, of course, is Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And Manitoba for sure, because if you educate in Manitoba, then that's 1 year in Manitoba, you get a 1 year postgrad, you can apply under the MPNP program, and that's great, you're here. That makes it very, very easy. But you also have to remember, like if you decide you're going to educate in another province, and a lot of the other provinces are very expensive. A lot of people love to educate in Ontario. Now, Ontario is brutally expensive to live in, and their PNP program is not as friendly as it is in Manitoba and in Saskatchewan. So if you're going to look at going in Ontario, and especially under 1 year program, you are likely going to run into problems. And the reason for it is, even if you do your 1 year, if you do it in places like where the RNIP is, like Sudbury or Timmins or North Bay or something, you may qualify under the RNIP programs. So with the processes being as long as they are under the RNIPs, you may find that you run out of time, even on your postgrad work permit, is what I'm saying. So all of a sudden, you're coming up to the end of your postgrad work permit of 1 year, and you still haven't got your acceptance letter from the RNIP, even though you educated in that area, you live in that area, and chances are that you would get an offer in that area, especially if you're an in-demand skill. So you're coming up at the end of it. So now you have to try to find an employer that has or offers an LMIA for you. So now you have a lot of other issues you have to deal with. You are in the chance of running out of status. If you run out of status, then you have bigger problems to deal with. So you have to look at a TRP or a temporary visa or change over to a visitor's visa or whatever while you're trying to get an LMIA approved and so on and so forth. But during that time, you can't work. So you have to have money sitting around to be able to support you while you're waiting for all these other issues going on. So this is why I'm actually a fan of Manitoba and Saskatchewan, is just because of these reasons that this as well. Because yes, they're the provincial nominee programs here, they take long too, but you can apply for a work permit. And once you're in these provinces, a 1-year program will definitely help you get your PNP. If you do a 2-year program, so you get a 3-year post-grad, and you're working, fulfilling your needs for the Manitoba PNP or the Saskatchewan nominee program, will not be that much of an issue either. So, anyways, this is something you really, really have to decide when it comes to education. Because here's one other thing. A lot of people, and I deal with this on a regular basis, people that are educating in BC and people that are educating in Ontario. The cost of living in BC and Ontario is extremely high. And all of a sudden, after they finish their education, they find it's just way too expensive to live there. And they decide they would love to move to Manitoba. So the problem is because Manitoba's cost of living, same as Saskatchewan, the cost of living is far more reasonable than those other provinces are. Now, one of the biggest problems you run into is because you educated in another province and you worked in another province, you lose points. And those points will definitely very much hurt you when it comes to applying for your MPNP. So, like 200 points for for educating in another province, and I think it's another 100 points for working in another province, or whatever the case is. But taking your education in Manitoba or taking your education in Saskatchewan and then applying in one of those two places for your PNP are far more beneficial for you, and it benefits you when it comes to points and stuff like that as well. It's also good to consider when it comes to having a family member coming down the road. If you qualify under the Manitoba PNP program and you've done your schooling, you're living in Manitoba, and this is why I love the Manitoba one, by the way. I live in Manitoba, but I love it because of just these reasons. If you're living here and you have a brother or sister or whatever else that wants to immigrate to Canada, that has an education already where you're from, be it India, Africa, or wherever it happens to be, they have a good education currently, and they have some job experience, but they would really like to come here because trying to find a job in their field is very, very difficult. Well, because you live here, when they can apply under the MPNP and they get 200 points because you're living here. That's an extra 200 points just for you living in this province because they are a close relative. Yes, it works well with if you have a friend or a cousin or something like that, you get 50 extra points. But having a family relative in the province really helps to boost your score. This is why I am bringing up the whole point is sitting around the table and having a good discussion and knowing exactly where you want to do and exactly what the long-term plan is, especially if you have younger siblings that are going to want to follow your footsteps in the future. Yes, you being here, you're able to sponsor your parents or your grandparents or whatever they'll be able to come to Canada, but that still omits your brothers and sisters because there is currently no program for them to fit under. So unless you are in a province that's very, very friendly or they can get a job offer, they're stuck in another country and that they may not be able to come here. You may be here, your other brother and sister may be here, your parents may be here, whatever the case is, but they may not be able to come because there's no program for them to fit under. So that's why I state the fact of being aware and sure of who you, what your plan is when you are here. The long-term plan, not the short. So there's alternate ideas. There's other ideas I'm going to discuss in other videos here, but I want to get this one out first. This is the first thing to do. So just to recap, if you're looking at coming here, look at all the different provinces and consider the long term. Consider how it will affect your entire family. Consider the cost of education. 1, 2, 3, 4 year, whatever program. Because you got to remember, if you end up doing a 4 years bachelor's degree, that's $120,000 Canadian. And even if you're allowed to work during those times, during the education times, you are no way going to ever come near $120,000 to help cover the cost of education. If you come from a very wealthy family, it's not a problem. But if you've come from a regular middle class family, this can be a very, very big issue. 80% of the people that come to Canada for education want to stay in Canada. And there's an amazing amount of people that fall short. They cannot complete their education because of financial needs or stuff like that, and they have to leave school. And then they end up being here illegal, or they end up trying to scramble and try to figure out a way to stay here. So this is something to really think about. Take it in heavy consideration and really consider what your whole plan is. Anyways, I just want to put that out there today. This is for education. I'm going to discuss this in more in depth in my next video on that, but this here was my first one. This is a long video as it is almost 12 minutes. I'm sorry for that, but I wanted to get this point out and make it very, because it's a very important discussion, a very important topic. Anyways, this is Gerard from GH Immigration Services here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And you can reach me my details will be here on the link. There's also the Canadian Immigration's Utility app from me that's available on iOS and on Android as well, that you can download. And it has all kinds of great little information. And it has updates, news updates, and so on, CRS scores, and so on and so forth. It's a great app, and I think you would like to enjoy it too. So you could add that if you want to keep in touch with videos, and so on and so forth. Anyways, thank you very much. Have yourself a pleasant day, evening, and stay safe. Bye for now.